Hey, John Tzortzis here. And to go on another self-journey, one must first be like a little baby, ready to go on one's first steps. I'm a little baby. Are you a little baby? And what do babies do? They expect the unexpected. Meow.
Hi there, John. It is Hannah here, and welcome to your Access All Areas reading. So I just wanted to jump on here quickly to say hello to you and to, of course, thank you so much for booking this reading. We're really going to look over a lot of things today, so I hope that you do enjoy it, and I hope that you get what you need from your experience overall. And you know what, as well, I just hope that things are practical for you too. Okay, so with all of that being said, let's dive right in. Okay, John, so firstly, to begin your reading, I just want to address this question about grace. So I am currently looking at your astrocartography map, and yes, we notice here that the Jupiter midheaven line as well as the Mercury midheaven line, very, very close there. So whenever we think about those particular lines running through Greece as a destination for you to move to, we could look at this as quite a time of learning, right? So a lot of knowledge will be gained, plenty of exploration. Could even be a sense of feeling pretty content, joyous, being quite a communicator, being quite a proactive communicator. Learning, of course, the language as well and being open to other languages. Perhaps even with you having Mercury and Jupiter conjunct your ascendant, we could see this as you already knowing one or two languages, perhaps two or more. Also, what I find interesting here is that whenever we draw a chart, so whenever we look to those coordinations on the map, there is a chart that is drawn, and for both destinations I checked, Sagittarius is on the rising. And then that massive Virgo stellium you have moves into this 10th house area, this midheaven point. So what does this mean in layman's terms? Firstly, with Sagittarius on the rising, this can be a big indicator of you having this larger than life demeanor whilst you are in that particular part of the world. This could be a case of you taking risks, you feeling this sense of adventure and really wanting to explore and to expand your mind, coming across as quite optimistic and positive, even coming across as very likable and social and super friendly, super engaging. Could even be a case of exciting new opportunities presenting themselves. And to think about this further, with the Jupiter midheaven line being quite nearby to both destinations, really, we could see this as potential work opportunities, right? Certain jobs or roles or positions you can take on, perhaps related to teaching, for example, and sharing of your knowledge. Even this could be a case of you becoming trained within a particular area, right? And that area, it could involve you using your hands a great deal. Why am I saying this? Because Jupiter itself is in Virgo. Virgo is a very practical sign. It's very much about, okay, let's perfect our skills. Let's use our skills, okay? Using the hands as well is very much highlighted here. You know, maybe being quite gifted basically when it comes to using your hands, or even I look at this as you being quite a swift learner, but hey, still you needing to process information in a slow internal way too. But I do notice this wit, I do notice this studious part of you strongly. So yes, I think we could see how that particular area of the world, it could involve work, it could involve service, it could involve excellence, performance, and you really being recognized in a large way, perhaps by others, right? Recognized for your efforts, for your services, your gifts. And at the same time, I think that Greece could be a place where you really go wild in a way, where you let your hair down. There's a freedom, I think, that will be very much present. And I even want to mention that what's important to note is the fact that Jupiter in your chart, if we're to think about the Hellenistic view, which is more of a traditional technique used in astrology, Jupiter in your chart is considered to be quite a pleasing area, right? Jupiter can be about luck and abundance and prosperity. So in this way, perhaps moving to that or near that Jupiter midheaven line, you may find that you feel this sense of optimism and enthusiasm regarding your public image, regarding your public persona, or your sense of achievement and accomplishment. So those are the very areas that could be highlighted in this really beneficial way, this rewarding way. Again, we do want to think about this within the context of Jupiter in Virgo. So maybe let's just take some time to explain what Jupiter in Virgo is all about. Of course, you do have Jupiter in Virgo natally, and it is very close to the ascendant. So the ascendant, first and foremost, is all about our appearance. It's very much about our life path, our life direction, and our outlook on life. So we start from the ascendant, and what we do is we really head out into the world and we approach new situations and experiences. So we do this basically through the lens of the ascendant. So with the ascendant being in the sign of very conscientious Virgo, we see this perfectionism when it comes to you. We see this more focus on details, this greater focus on details. Your, I suppose, automatic way of dissecting information, breaking it down, making it tangible, making it usable, making it practical. And so what we notice when it comes to you is you are continuously analyzing your environment, perhaps seeing what could be improved, what you could add to, what you could take away, how things can be more aligned or well suited, well fitted. We even see here that when it comes to your very appearance, you may be quite focused on little things about your body, about your clothing, about how you look essentially, and you'll notice those little details. And I also see this as you really going overboard in a large way when it comes to those very areas. Why is this? Well, this is where Jupiter indeed comes in. So Jupiter is this planet of expansion. It really is about increasing, amplifying whatever it touches. So yes, this can manifest as your detail-orientated nature being amplified, right? Increasing. This can also manifest as you worrying a great deal or being a rather great problem solver. You may be very good at coming up with solutions to things, and doing so in ways where your plan, your solution, it not only serves you, but it serves other people. We see here your helpfulness. We see here how concerned you can be about others and wanting to assist them in some way, shape, or form. And we also see that these are the kinds of qualities and attributes that were, in a way, placed onto you. They were reinforced strongly growing up. So I imagine you being really young and being the child who had to get everything right, who might have felt the pressures of needing to be perfect, and anything that was out of order or unclean or wrong that could have been sort of processed as you being bad or wrong or incorrect, or you must do better, you must improve. Now, one way to look at this is, yes, we can see it as a positive thing. We can see this as you really taking this approach of, okay, I am willing to work on myself, I am willing to improve, and that's great. However, this can also manifest in such a way where you go overboard, where you critique and criticize yourself, you criticize others, you read into things a lot, you overthink. Again, we see the excessive worrying, we see the stress, we see here your nervous system being really shaky, and we see the challenge here, I suppose, a lot of challenge to do with quieting your mind. The challenge here to do with being okay with who you are, or feeling content within your own skin. Now, with that being said, I do understand that you are in your 50s, right? So you may be listening to this thinking to yourself, Hannah, I've been there before. That's not me anymore. I'm a lot more calmer within myself. And so that's really, really good. And I suppose too, whenever we look to your progressions, we do notice that many of the planets that you have in Virgo, they have moved on into other signs. So I'm really just bringing that up because we do notice greater balance, or we do even notice your ability to challenge the part of you that may be overly worrisome, if you will, right? So yes, I just wanted to acknowledge that. Still, I think equally with so much Virgo, I think it can often manifest as there's just always something to improve. And at the same time, if we were to look at this from a place of strength, we see here that when it comes to the work you do, for example, you don't want to just do a good job, you want to do an excellent job, which I think is to be valued and appreciated about yourself, very much so. Also, we can look at this as the fact that you don't let things just rest or be, maybe that within itself helps you keep motivated or keep moving or keep doing things that you really, you need to do or that you would like to do. So there is this, I would say, this striving influence within you, this expansive influence, this, I'm always willing to improve. I'm always willing to, ask myself, right, okay, well, what could I have done better in that situation? And when you figure out, okay, what you could have done better, I do think that you are able to learn. I think with Jupiter, especially being conjunct the ascendant, you keep it moving. And what I mean by that is you're continuously willing to evolve and grow and to change things. I even see this as you being willing enough to change your environment, to change your surroundings. So anytime in life, whenever you've been caught up in maybe unhealthy relationships, or you've been caught up in maybe environments, relationships that don't serve you anymore, your body knows so well. And so the beauty of this Virgo influence is that you listen. You're able to listen to your body. Now, having said that, maybe this is also a part of the challenge. And the challenge here, I think, is between the mind and the body. So maybe what you often find difficult to know or to assess is a particular decision you're making coming from this mental place of, okay, it's well informed, you've thought everything through? Or could it even be that you read into things too much, you overthink, you overanalyze, and then you might stay in certain situations that you don't actually enjoy? And then I guess a part of that challenge, that difficulty too, is whenever your body is trying to send you signals, it's trying to send messages to you about maybe something you're uncomfortable with, something that you don't like. How do you listen to your body? Do you analyze it mentally, or try to more so think about things from a logical standpoint? Are you able to step back and sort of say, hold on a second, what is happening? What's happening with my nervous system? Why am I getting so wound up by this? Because this is the thing with this Virgo influence, so much of it can be this indicator of you being highly strung, of you being easily wound up by others, or very sensitive even, sensitive to other people's feedback, sensitive to other people's criticisms. And especially with the moon there, the moon is about our emotions, it's about our sensitivities. So I wonder about times when you can take things very, very personally and to heart. I wonder about others possibly challenging you in life and then how you feel about those things. But then I also wonder about possible justifications for other people's behavior as well, and how long you stay within certain relationships. And it's interesting because we also see that Venus is this planet of love, relationships. It's a very social planet. So Venus is in Virgo conjunct Pluto, and Pluto is about renewal, transformation, loss, grief, death, right? So we could look at this potentially through a lens of manipulative tactics, or through a lens of power struggles, power plays that have occurred throughout your life when it comes to romance and love. We think about possible confusion tied to those very relationships and partnerships, kind of questioning, is this real? Is this really happening? What is going on? We see this further with the fact that the sextile is occurring between Neptune, this planet of illusion and confusion. So the sextile between Neptune and that Venus and Pluto in the chart. And then equally with Uranus pretty nearby. Uranus is very much this planet of rebellion and breaking free. So point being, I'm wondering, John, about the very dynamics that you have experienced within your relationships. I'm wondering about even a lot of the times the image that you give off, the way that maybe you show up within the world, and that could be this way where you're so excessively helpful, understanding, empathetic, courteous, trying to do your best. You wouldn't turn people away who are looking for your support. I wonder about that part of you being manipulated, controlled, others coming in and trying to dominate, you having to learn a few hard truths about your boundaries, about you being able to step back and say, hold on a second, this is not good. This is not good for me. I need to walk away from this. And then I wonder about possible cycles, possible patterns that repeat time and time again. So this is interesting, it really is, because the other thing about it to add, I suppose, is the fact that the South Node, right, the South Node is very much about our comfort zone. The South Node is in Libra, the sign of relationships and partnerships. And the other thing to add to this is that The secondary progressed moon right now is very close. It's drawing very close to that south node point. So why is this important? I think there is this emotional breaking free influence right now for you. I'm getting from this wanting to run away, wanting to get away from, it could be a particular job, it could be a particular relationship, it could be an old narrative tied to your self-worth, your self-esteem. And indeed, so with the South Node being in Libra, we see this possible tendency, this cycle basically of you being codependent, of you repeating the same kinds of cycles within relationships, the same kinds of partners that come up time and time again, or feeling a bit like, why can I not seem to let go of this situation and put myself first? What is so devastating about that? What is so painful about that? And this is where we see then that the North Node is in Aries, and it's kind of calling at you, and it's trying to say, look over here, I'm trying to get you to address your independence, your individuality. I'm trying to get you to see that you are worth so much more than that, and that you can put yourself first, you can make yourself a priority. But here's the other thing, Chiron is also there in Aries in the 8th house. So this journey that I talk about, it's triggering, it's confronting, almost like a big part of your soul's purpose, right? Because the nodes are about soul's purpose. You may not believe in that, but it's just something that, you know, the nodes represent. But it could be that a big part of your soul's purpose is very much tied to you exploring your subconscious, exploring possibly the occult, exploring more of these hidden practices, right? So we think about astrology here, for instance. Then again, this could also be about trying to take a deeper look into your psychology through therapists or through certain treatments, right? So basically, this suggests that to go on this journey towards greater insight and emotional discovery, Chiron says that it can be painful, it can be wounding. It's like a part of you that is so exposed and is vulnerable. And that within itself may be really, really scary, because you're forced in a way to address something that is so close, is so intimate and private. See, the 8th house is a very private house. The 8th house is about the things that we lock away, the things that we bury, the things that we deny, or we're just not willing to face, we're not ready to face. And so with Chiron there, I wonder about the past. I wonder about past attacks, past issues with control, or past issues with manipulation, which may have really triggered your sense of self, your identity. What's coming through here is being cut off, right? Cut off from people, or what's coming through here is loss or grief and sorrow and the agony of certain emotions. So the North Node, to bring it back to the North Node, I think that basically by exploring what is hidden and locked away, this is a part of your journey, and maybe you have already embarked on that journey, right? You have, and through such experiences, you have maybe outgrown certain relationships. And I think to myself about how you did experience a nodal return, right? So what I mean by this is throughout half of 2023, so July of 2023 and throughout 2024, the nodes were in Aries and Libra. So with you already having the North Node in Aries and then the South Node in Libra, you experienced a nodal return. So that return throughout around about 2024 could have been really eye-opening for you. I wonder about the endings of particular relationships. I wonder about even certain narratives that you outgrew. I wonder about certain ways of maybe earning money or making a living, maybe addressing your assets and weighing out your options there, getting things in place. See, you did say about this move, right? So moving to Greece in the next 6 months, I am sure that that took a lot of having to weigh things out, having to go over a plan, having to make adjustments financially so that you can afford the trip and everything else, and how long you're going to go for and what you're going to do, right? And then I'm curious about what triggered that, you know, or maybe a better way to put that is, how did that experience come about for you? And I can't help but think or speculate that such a trip is very much a part of an after story. It's like, okay, a particular situation has ended financially, security wise, relationship wise, and so maybe you're at a point, John, where you feel ready, right? You feel more equipped to move on, possibly to do something for yourself. And well, do you know what? This is actually what leads me on to another point, and it is to do with your Mars return. So we talked about the North Node return that recently happened for you, but the Mars return, it's going on right now. So if we were to look at this, Mars right now is at 14 degrees. I'm recording this segment of your reading on the 19th of May. So yes, what we see here is that Mars is very much close to your natal Mars. What does a Mars return suggest? Well, the Mars return happens around about every 2.5 years or so, and what maybe has came up for you very strongly lately is that of reevaluating, reviewing your goals, thinking over the next step. And these goals, I think, have been looked at and assessed more so throughout 2024 as well, right? Especially towards the end of 2024, because Mars did begin its retrograde from Leo actually at the end of 2024. And basically Mars retrogrades are a time of review and reevaluation. Mars is about our goals. Mars is about our drive. So with the Mars return now, this suggests a new cycle, right? A new 2.5 year cycle where maybe you feel like, you know what, you're ready to wipe the slate clean. You're ready to make things happen, to follow the things that you want to do within your heart, right? It's very much about this passion, this enthusiasm, this strength. I see this as you showcasing a lot of bravery, you showcasing a lot of courage, even to think about how Mars rules the North Node, is making a trine to the North Node. So there is something quite spiritually aligned about this next step for you. There's something here about your own healing journey, your own recovery. There's something here about retreating, escaping, needing to get away, needing just something for yourself. And I also see this as you showcasing great leadership, advocating for yourself, being able to say that, you know what, with all of your Virgo stuff going on in the first house, there is only so much you can do for other people. There is only so much you have to give energetically. There's only so much help you can give, so much assistance you can give. I feel like Mars in the 12th house in Leo often is left starving. It's left so thirsty. It's left needing attention, right? And maybe you're used to just kind of going, no, I don't need the attention. I'm going to give my attention to others. And that's not necessarily a bad way to be, but it's more so that we see the extremes of this kind of behavior. We see the, oh, that's fine, we'll just sweep that under the rug, we'll just let that go. But what happens then is things start to build and build and build, and then you're left possibly feeling resentful, possibly feeling bitter, possibly feeling unseen, unloved, undervalued, undermined, all those kinds of things. And then I guess it just gets to a breaking point. And I can't help but think that even with Uranus, right? So Uranus is also in Virgo, and it's very close to Pluto there as well. And then Pluto is close by to Venus and Mercury. It's almost like Uranus says, well, you know what? I still value my independence. I still need my freedom. I still need to be able to break away from situations that I know within my heart of hearts I have outgrown. And there is this sense of liberation, I think. Plus, you know what? Mars is so much about how we stand up for ourselves. Mars is so much about how we can assert ourselves within the world. So to have Mars in the 12th, it seems like the way that you assert yourself, stand up for yourself, you know, it's hidden, it's controlled, it's possibly seen as, oh, well, we'll not look at that. That can wait. And so to bring this back to Mars residing in the 12th house with your Mars return happening in current times, we see this part of you that is able to say no more. Or we see this desire, this willingness to make a change, or this desire to push back and have some kind of freedom and autonomy. We also see this enthusiasm, this inspiration, this fighting spirit basically within you that is there. It's there, it's present, you feel it within yourself. It's the part of you that you go to sleep. You know, you go to sleep basically feeling that part of you, knowing that part of you, connecting with it. It may not necessarily be that you show this Mars and Leo energy outwardly to the world, right? So this part of you that is very much about your own creativity and passions and interests and everything. Yeah, you may not necessarily show those types of aspects of yourself outwardly to the world, but you connect with it in different ways. I actually see this as you being really quite active about your creative gifts or interests behind the scenes, maybe being quite the performer, the entertainer. You really possibly even secretly enjoying drama, you know, sort of dramatic scenes and movies that are very dramatized, or music that's very loud and quite poppy possibly, music that makes you dance, gets you into a groove, gets you into a rhythm. Yeah, I just think that there's such a way that you play essentially behind the scenes, and it's almost like you're just waiting for that part of you to come out, and it does come out, I think, in other ways. I think it can come out in ways when you are very comfortable, you're very safe with others, you feel seen. I think this part of you also comes out possibly whenever you're under the influence. Plus, what also comes to mind is retreating, spiritually so. So, for example, this can manifest as you taking a leadership role, taking on a leadership position as you lead a spiritual retreat, or as you take on a program and it is about moving your body, it's about being active, it's about being fun, enjoying yourself. And what also comes to my mind is, due to how the 12th house is about our dreams and our subconscious, I am curious about the kinds of dreams you have about performing or being heroic, being this leader who can take charge and who can lead the pack, lead the group with dignity and with honor, with virtue. So yes, I think that these are the kinds of qualities and attributes that you really connect with deeply. Now, with that being said, let's try and explore this Saturn influence, right? Because Saturn is located in Aries and is, of course, retrograde. So we touched on the North Node in this area of your chart. We touched briefly on Chiron. But Saturn is very much about what is responsible, what is slow and gradual. Saturn is about how we show integrity, how we discipline ourselves, self-mastery. And what's going to come up for you over the next coming years is your second Saturn return. All right, so the second Saturn return happens around about 60s, okay? So close to our 60s, towards the ends of our 50s, about that. And it's really a time for us to check in on our Saturn journey. So what does that actually mean in layman's terms? Well, Saturn in Aries in this position can suggest blockages and tests and challenges tied to that of leadership, tied to that of your identity. We see hard truths and hard lessons related to your impulses, your anger, your temper, your impatience. And so maybe in a large way, you have addressed those very blockages and challenges throughout your life. You have overcome certain obstacles, and maybe you are at a point, John, where you feel like you're not as impulsive, you're not as reckless, or it's that you feel more in control of your impulses, your temptations, and things of that nature. Though another possible way to look at this is you even coming to learn how to be proactive or how to assert yourself, to be a bit more confident about your life's decisions, right? So about the decisions you make, it's about, okay, you've made that decision and you face the consequences of that decision. See, with Saturn being in Aries, especially combined with your Libra energy and Chiron in Aries, we do see possible indecision or insecurities about making decisions. Then I'm also curious about the kinds of ways that you were able to or not able to make decisions for yourself growing up. I wonder about that. I wonder, is it that you grew up with a particular parental figure who was quite domineering or who was very controlling or bossy, or things had to be their way? And it's almost like you couldn't do anything right. There was always just something else that would come up and you felt this pressure. Maybe you felt those pressures to be perfect, to make the correct, quote unquote, correct decision, to never make mistakes. And so maybe this kind of dynamic, it created this fear, it created this uncertainty. So Saturn in Aries, I think, in a large way, is about, okay, how about you take that leap? How about you go to that place or you make that change in your life? Basically, it's this question of what is on the other side of your fear. And then also it's a case of how might you as the individual be getting in your own way. And yes, I also can see that it's often our circumstances, it's often the people we surround ourselves with that can result in us experiencing blockages and setbacks and things like that. And we see that with the South Node being in Libra too. But I still think that over the next coming years, this is going to be such an awakening for you, or it's going to be a time of great growth and great maturity and a lot of learning, and you being able to say, do you know what, yeah, I overcame that, I did that, I went for it, and I didn't shy away, I didn't hide in the corner. I think this is where a lot of your transformation occurs. Transformation tied to responsibility, tied to accountability, to be accountable for your decisions, to be accountable for your actions. And that, of course, can manifest as you, for example, making a decision, going for it, so being active, and then whatever follows from that, it's like, right, okay, you'll deal with it then. You will learn from it then. Rather than this sitting on the fence, or rather than maybe even possibly the subconscious thing here is wanting other people to make decisions for you, wanting them to come along and validate you and say, hey, yeah, this is it, this is what you need to do. Again, I'm really curious about how these kinds of feelings or inner workings, how they came to be for you, and which kinds of experiences did you have when it came to being independent, essentially. So that developmental stage of you possibly, going out into the world and saying, right, okay, I'm going to provide for myself, I'm going to make my own life, I'm going to create. So I wonder about the criticisms, I wonder about the feedback you received, and the possible back and forth over should I do this, should I not do this. So to follow on from this, yes, we want to mention the fact that Saturn is at the apex. So it's the apex planet when we think about how, so Neptune is making that sextile to, I would say, the Venus influence, Pluto more strongly there, a bit of Uranus. And then we also notice that those Virgo planets and Neptune are making the inconjunctions to Saturn. Well, this is where we notice this driving force, this push to really show up and to take responsibility for yourself. Saturn is such a point of growth and transformation for you. And I think as well, this is about getting out of your own way. See, remember earlier I was talking about this Venus-Pluto influence, and I was mentioning briefly about how relationships throughout your life have reached a bit of a breaking point, and how potential power dynamics have even shown up within your relationships as well, right? But then you see, what we also notice with Neptune is Neptune can be this part of the chart that shows us wearing rose-colored glasses. For example, this can manifest as seeing what we want to see in someone, praying that they will change, but they never do, but we're just holding on to faith or hope or wishful thinking, I guess. We can wear rose-colored glasses by idealizing the other person, by seeing them as beautiful or as perfect. And we can also then put things to the side, put how we really feel about a relationship matter to the side. And so this is maybe what has, in a way, unfolded for you. And what's further important to add to this is, well, Black Moon Lilith is opposite Neptune by the same degree. So what does this suggest? Well, Black Moon Lilith is so much about us tapping into our personal power. Black Moon Lilith can show up as us being cast out, being shunned, being really put down, and others trying to manage us, trying to control us. So those kinds of dynamics, I'm just basically wondering how those kinds of dynamics played out or have played out within your relationships, right? Because even Black Moon Lilith is making those trines to especially Pluto, I would say, and then Pluto is still conjunct Venus. And then I also wonder about the confusion that's been present there. And with this influence happening within the 9th, 3rd houses, this stuff can show up as being very philosophical, very much tied to your worldviews, your belief systems, the narratives you tell yourself, the stories you tell yourself, so your thought processes. We also think about here possibly your early conditioning, sort of the script that was given to you in a large way about, oh, you need to do this, you need to be this way. I'm really curious about this strong desire within you to break free, to believe in the things that you want to believe in, to not conform to what other people want you to think or want you to believe. And I'm wondering here about fixed views from religious people, from teachers, from professors. So for example, this could have manifested as you growing up in a really religious household. We do see that with Jupiter conjunct the ascendant as well. You growing up surrounded by people who essentially wanted you to believe in what they believed in. And then any time that you would question or any time that you would challenge, it would be met with resistance, or you would be left feeling confused. Yeah, I think here there is something in you feeling uncertain about the next step because there was such a challenge within you growing up to do with making your own decisions, right? To me, this makes sense, because if it was that you were in a way conditioned to maybe believe in what others believed and to never challenge, to never question, then it can almost feel like your own mind isn't trustworthy. As if to say that, well, who am I going to turn to? Who is there to give me the answer? I need the answer. So to me, I think Saturn in Aries holds a lot of power for you. It holds a lot of growth, because it's like Saturn in Aries is this point of great strength for you, of great resilience, of you being able to say, no, this is who I am. And I'm not here to be told who I am. I'm here to be myself. And I think also Saturn in Aries speaks to you being more decisive, right? To make a decision. Like I was trying to say, it's to be firm in your decision making, and to be okay as well with setting healthy boundaries, right? To set healthy boundaries between yourself and others. Now, I'm really talking about this on a very psychological level with Saturn in the 8th house. But of course, John, this can also show up practically. So this is where I think getting things in order for yourself is also important. It's like you being at this point in your life, or you experiencing a good amount of years of you having to say, hold on, I need to support myself. I need to provide for myself. I can't have people trying to control or dictate or tell me how to be here, because it just seems like I'm never going to get out of that cycle, then that entrapment. If this is what I'm getting from this energy, this entrapment, this enslavement, this what feels very oppressive. So to get yourself organized practically too, and to be able to save, to be able to patiently pay off debts, to pay off certain, finances, to basically be able to say, hold on, I don't need to depend on that anymore, that person anymore, that job anymore, that business anymore. Maybe Saturn in Aries does in a way speak to how you can take greater control of your shared assets or shared resources, accounts, things like that. And of course, we can look at this through a lens of making sure that your taxes are paid, or making sure that all debts are paid off and you're not tied to things, if you will. Now, with that being said, this could also manifest as you feeling a bit like, oh my gosh, there's just so much I need to get through, things are piling up, the bills, and I've all this other stuff happening and it's so stressful for me, right? So there could be some of that going on, but maybe what your second Saturn return is going to usher in, it's going to maybe usher in this greater planning, this greater strategy, this greater discipline, a process that you can put in place for yourself, so that you can support yourself. Hey, but you know what? Equally, due to how Saturn does rule your 5th house and your 6th house, yes, but with the 5th house, it's about children. So on that note, what comes to mind here is you still supporting children, supporting your business, if it is that there is a kind of tie to a business, or there's a tie to a certain loan that you're trying to pay off. If it is that you're trying to maybe pay off a divorce, right? So there could be a divorce settlement in place here. It could also be a case of you maybe wanting to move with your family, with your spouse, right? So there could be other people involved, essentially. This is what I'm getting at. There could be other people's money involved, other responsibilities, other commitments you have to people within your life, financially speaking, practically speaking. I'm even considering here paying off a certain mortgage, or looking into getting a mortgage, looking into you saving up for something that's shared, right? So a shared asset, a shared resource, could be with your spouse, could be with your significant other, it could be with a business partner, it could be for family purposes, family reasons. And what's even further interesting to note about that is Jupiter will be moving into Cancer, so June, 9th of June of 2025 for a year. So Jupiter will be entering this family sign, the home sign of Cancer. And do remember that Jupiter rules your 4th house of family and home. So we could literally see this as this shift, this transit, as representing a significant move, as representing a significant family shift. And also you expanding your social circles, your networks, your groups, expanding upon really supportive, nurturing communities. So something that is quite interesting I've noticed is actually how Venus is making more of a biquintile to Saturn, right? So biquintiles can often point towards gifts, but it's about the effort that we put into really building upon those gifts. We got to put something into this particular aspect. So what can this suggest? I mean, this could very well suggest a business gift. This could suggest some kind of talent that you have when it comes to organizing your finances. You might be quite serious, disciplined, and committed when it comes to financial matters, when it comes to building for the future here, investing in your future. Maybe even since your first Saturn return would have happened around about the time you were 30, right? So since then, you have got to work. Even with so much Virgo, very much a busy bee, just very busy, very conscientious, dedicated, very focused on how you can not only be there to help and assist others, but there is this sense of dedication to your personal goals and ambitions. And to think also that the 8th house, it can be quite a wealthy house, right? It can show up as inheritances, large sums of money, investments, business ventures. So to have the North Node there in Aries as well as Saturn, it does seem like a big part of your purpose, a big part of your direction in this life is geared towards that of making things happen within those very areas, right? Being this trailblazer, being a pioneer, showcasing independence, showcasing this drive to be driven, to be somewhat resilient and relentless. Okay, so now let's even consider how there's quite a bit going on in the 7th house. I want to take a moment to explore the 7th house area because, well, Pisces is on the descendant, and the very ruler of your descendant, Jupiter, well, the traditional ruler, is located opposite, conjunct the ascendant. So what this can indicate is that a big part of your goals and aims very much tied to could be marriage, partnerships, business deals, contracts, agreements. And I think that you may be attracted to partners who they showcase a great deal of sensitivity and empathy and compassion, but equally they can also show up as being quite hands-on, practical, possibly matter of fact. But then the other thing about this is because the descendant is in Pisces, maybe something that you are not necessarily aware of within yourself, or maybe you have come to understand these qualities I'm about to say, but such qualities could be where you show up as quite idealistic within your one-to-one relationships. Maybe you can even be quite the hopeless romantic, or it's like you project your fantasies, your dreams onto your partners. Could also be a case of you getting lost in the relationship or losing a sense of, well, a piece of your identity, a piece of yourself. Could also be a lack of boundaries. And here's the thing, Neptune has been transiting that 7th house for you for the past 14 years, right? And now Neptune did recently enter Aries at the end of March. We'll be there for a few months, but basically over the past 14 years, we have seen this sort of uncertainty, this fog, this haze that has been created, this possibility of wanting to be rescued or saved, or you wanting to be the one who rescues or saves others. So with Neptune now out of Pisces for a short period of time, maybe a lot of epiphanies have been coming up for you, a lot of realizations, as if you have waken up from a dream, as if the fog has been lifted, as if you've taken off the rose-colored glasses and you see things for what they are, not for how you wish them to be. And then what's going to be interesting is Saturn is going to move into the 8th house for you, and that will happen around about the 24th of May or so, for a few months. And so you're about to approach this new chapter, actually. This new chapter to do with those shared accounts, shared resources, to do with intimacy, emotional bonding, trust, safety, all those kinds of things. Also, we can look at this through a lens of loss there. So it's almost like you're approaching this starting over energy, or it's that you're going to be welcomed with new commitments, new responsibilities. And the other thing to add to this then, for you to be aware, John, is both Neptune and Saturn will re-enter Pisces throughout 2025, more so towards the middle of 2025 for the rest of the year. So with those celestial bodies being in the 7th, that will be a good opportunity for you to clear space, which has already been happening, but it really will be a good time for you to just reflect, check in, ask yourself, okay, is there anything I've overlooked? Is there anything I've forgotten about? Perhaps older relationship dynamics will resurface. For example, if it is that you've made a certain change over recent months tied to relationships, tied to partnerships, it could very well be that situation resurfaces towards the end of 2025. And so it's sort of an opportunity for you to go back in and think, okay, well, how would I like to respond to this situation? Is this what I actually want moving forward? Or is this about me being reminded of my boundaries, right? That's another question you could ask yourself, right? Because I think to a large extent, Saturn in Pisces since March of 2023, so from March 2023 all the way up until present times, Saturn in Pisces has been a way for you to establish healthier boundaries in your life. If it has been a way for you to operate from a more responsible way, where you go, you know what, I'm not responsible for other people's emotions, right? The pity parties, right? The woe is me, I can't live without you, I'm so distraught about this situation. You know, you get brought back in, you get taken back in, and almost like you have to be the one who saves, you have to be the one who is there for others, but then that within itself is so completely one-sided. So I can't help but think that these are the kinds of themes and lessons that have been strongly emphasized for you relationship-wise, partnership-wise. And then what's going to happen, John, is both Saturn and Neptune will officially enter into your 8th house from around about February of 2026. And that will basically officially close off a chapter for you, that relationship chapter. Now, having said that, the North Node...
Okay. It's John here. I've been listening throughout this whole recording here with Hannah, and Hannah has been spot on the whole time. Like, for instance, right now, Saturn moving into Pisces in March 2023. Yeah, when that happened, I was fed up. I was so fed up. I was in Narcotics Anonymous at the time, and they were such fucking pieces of shit, these people. They stopped talking about God as a solution. They stopped talking about God as anything. They're like, you know, when I would talk about God, they would look at me like strange. It's like, you motherfuckers, man. On the symbol, it says self-society, service, and God, you bitch. And they're not talking about fucking God. Fuck them. So what did I do? Saturn entered Pisces in March 2023. June 2023, I got the fuck out of there. I said, fuck you to all those motherfuckers in Narcotics Anonymous. I said, suck my pinky finger. Go ahead, open your mouth. Suck my pinky finger, bitch. Fuck. These people are so fucking fucked up, man. And basically for about a year, October of 2022, I started going to, probably earlier, probably like August, September, around my birthdays, when I started going to AA meetings, AA meetings, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. And I went to one a week AA and one a week NA. And I was doing that for like a long time, since about August, September of 2022. And it was terrible. You know, it was terrible. NA was terrible. But when I went to AA, because I went with this guy DiViNiTY, and he was really cool, and he basically told me, he goes, yeah, John, they talk about God in AA. And every single meeting I've been to since I started going in 2022, September, let's say, everyone's been talking, every meeting that I go to, they always talk about God as a solution. Every meeting. You know, when I went to Greece in May, in 2024, when I went to Greece, it was 2024 that I that I left the Narcotics Anonymous. June 2024 was the last time I left there, and July 2024 is I officially went to AA, and I got a sponsor, and now I have a sponsor, and I have a program there, and I go to meetings, and I'm working steps right now. So, yeah. And another thing, my nodal return, when that happened, my first nodal return, that's when I started getting clean from Narcotics Anonymous. When I joined Narcotics Anonymous, my nodal return was around when I was 27 years old. So my Saturn return was then too. My Saturn return was when I was around 29, 30. So yeah, and back then I turned my life around and I started using drugs. And I was working for my mom's apartment building. So my dad passed away when I was 18 and a half. And that's when my progressed Mars moved over I think my son. You know, and one astrologer told me about that. And Astro Victor told me about that. And basically that's when my father died. Exactly when my father died, you know? When my progressed when my progressed Mars was over my natal sun. And my mom, she died when my nodal return came in 2023 July. I had the nodal return, Aries, you know, nodes were in Aries, and my mom passed away in June 2023. So right after my mom passed away, I had my nodal return, and basically, me and my sister, we sold my mom's apartment buildings, we sold my mom's house, we sold fucking everything, and that's why I'm going to fucking Greece. You know, I got nothing here in Chicago, nothing, nobody, and this past Saturn return, this past Saturn in Pisces for the past since 2023, I basically got rid of all of my friends. Fuck you, I said to fucking all of them. I said, suck my pinky finger, bitch. Fuck them all. And I don't have any friends right now. I have new friends that I've made in AA. I got a sponsor, some acquaintances. I go to a salon on a regular basis where creative people meet every month. And then I go to open mics. So the guy who runs the salon talks to us about it. And we meet there and we have a great time. Oh my God, I haven't had this much fun in a long time. Fucking NA, fuck you, motherfuckers in NA. If any of you are listening, suck my pinky finger, bitch. Fuck. And now this is a new chapter in my life. So let's go down with the reading.
We'll continue on through the 7th house, right? Until about, I would say, July time of 2026, around about that time. And so that's a good way to really reflect upon, okay, spiritually speaking, what's coming up. I think the North Node, since the beginning of 2025 and all the way until about the summer of 2026, the North Node in your 7th is a good way for you to get into alignment with what your spiritual values are within relationships. Maybe a lot to do with trust, a lot to do with surrender, you know, surrendering to the unknown. So if it is, for instance, that there have been certain, it could be narratives, it could be stories, it could be physical relationships that have gradually just faded away, came to a close. The North Node, I think, acts as this assisting force, this supportive force, in that hopefully you can approach things in more of a holistic way, more of a compassionate way. Maybe self-forgiveness comes up. Maybe it is about being able to say, you know what, yeah, I can see what role I played within that relationship dynamic, and I'm going to take responsibility for it, and I'm going to move forward, I'm going to move on, and try to just remember that you can begin a new cycle. You can start over if you want to start over. And again, it could be that this trip that you talk about, this move that you talk about, is in some way, shape or form a part of that starting over. Essentially, John, I think this is about you leaning into the North Node in Pisces. And that could be quite the challenge given how you have so much Virgo going on in the opposite way, right? So the South Node is in Virgo. Therefore, what this suggests is that over the next year, you're coming to terms with how you can breathe out, accept circumstances and situations for how they are, instead of trying to control, manage, and carry so much. See, I think the North Node, to a large extent, is about balance for you, suggesting that this is a year of great balance and trying to really reflect and go within to reconsider where you are in life and the next step you want to take. And what's also pretty fascinating about this is, given how eclipses, they are occurring in both Virgo and Pisces over the next year as well. And they have already started. So we have already noticed for you this clearing space, coming to terms with maybe letting go, shedding, releasing, moving away, accepting, being able to say, you know what, I cannot cope with that, or I cannot take on everybody else's stuff. See, what happened this year, so if we are to look at how eclipses happened in Virgo and Pisces, so those eclipses occurred around March time. Okay, so we had the lunar eclipse in Virgo that happened on the 14th of March 2025, which happened pretty much on Pluto in your chart and nearing Venus. So I do see this relationship change, or the dynamic of a relationship changing. But such an experience being very profound, intense, and transformative. Then also, what we see here is that there was the solar eclipse in Aries that took place on the 29th of March, and that happened right on your North Node in Aries. So we see this opening, this grand opening, this new chapter. We see possibly coming to terms with loss or grief. We see here you physically coming to this point of, what do I stand for? What is the best possible option for me moving forward? These kinds of questions come to mind. And perhaps having to make some hard decisions. So indeed, I think we are seeing these reoccurring themes linked to leadership strongly, embarking on a new journey, embarking on a new cycle, perhaps even related to investments, shared accounts and resources, related even to the occult, perhaps to your psychology. Intimacy also comes to mind, trust comes to mind, maybe starting over when it comes to trust and relationships to an extent. But then let's try and fast forward a bit, okay? So what's going to happen is these kinds of themes that I mentioned, they're going to continue to come up, right? They're going to continue. And what will happen is there will be more eclipses approaching. So by September time, what's going to occur is a lunar eclipse will take place in Pisces right on the descendant. So we could see some karmic endings here by September time related to partnerships, one-to-one relationships. Could also be a karmic release linked to your own way, so how you approach relationships essentially. Maybe coming to terms with any mirroring or empathy or taking on other people's emotions. Perhaps also boundaries are highlighted once again with the lunar eclipse in Pisces. And I also think that it's about spiritual alignment. This, I think, is massive for you when we think about course correcting tied to the eclipses. So we see these massive new chapters, these new beginnings, especially because so many of your personal planets are in these first house. Well, the first house is in particular with Virgo, but with Pisces opposite, there's still this influence, right? There is this reflective piece to speak to. And what we also see is the solar eclipse will happen in Virgo on the 21st of September, pretty much close to Uranus in your chart. So indeed, this could be some kind of new beginning, new chapter, possibly even tied to your work, tied to your daily activities, your everyday, right, your routines, because Uranus does rule your 6th house. And I'm also thinking, because Jupiter is in Virgo, right, so Jupiter rules Pisces, we are seeing these significant shifts to do with travel. I just think it's really quite aligned to a large extent when we consider your questions tied to travel, and then Jupiter is being really hit strongly here. So we are seeing these new experiences, these new chapters tied to travel. Though I think what's further important to add, and this is going to even solidify further what I'm saying, it's the fact that there will be that lunar eclipse in Virgo on the 3rd of March, 2026. So that is going to be a closing out eclipse, right? Because what will happen in 2026 is there will be that eclipse in Virgo, and then things will really start to shift into both Aquarius and Leo. But to speak to that eclipse, yeah, it will happen very close to Jupiter and on your ascendant. So we are seeing major identity changes, philosophical changes, worldview changes, and also a whole new way of viewing yourself, approaching situations. And remember, with the South Node being in Virgo, there is a letting go to add to this. So maybe letting go of false expectations, or letting go of this ideal tied to relationships, putting people on a pedestal perhaps. Or there could be new chapters tied to working abroad or offering your services abroad. There could be new chapters tied to just your philosophical views overall, and how those philosophical views are linked to your health, your body, regulating your nervous system. I think with so much activity happening right now in your first house of your body, your physical condition, health is a big part of the next few years for you. And this can look like, for example, how it is that you take care of your body, how you can regulate, how you can slow down enough to come from a place of greater calm and ease. See, what really is coming through for me when we consider how you have so much Virgo here, John, it's the autopilot stuff. It's the go, 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 the busy, 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 one project to the next, and not really giving yourself enough time to really assess, okay, is this serving me? Is this what I want? Is this good for me? So I think in essence, this is really about a lot of healing or recovery, or being able to manage your stress levels and to see in which ways you do overextend or overcommit. Maybe in this regard, it can take some time, right? It can really take some time for you to feel into things or to trust your intuition. I think even a big part of the North Node in Pisces here for the next year is about trusting your intuition and allowing your intuition to guide you to a large extent. Also paying attention to your body's signals, you know, the sensations that occur within your body and what your body is trying to communicate to you about your life, about your direction, about new goals or new aims. And, you know, maybe in the mix, there is some kind of positivity or optimism that you have, or maybe it is about turning to your faith, or it's about trying to appreciate the small moments. And it's those kinds of, I suppose, views and insights that may be able to help you through any, you know, turbulence, through any challenging moments that you experience. Because I do think to a large extent, you know, the fact that there will be an eclipse close to Uranus, so that will happen September of 2025. I do think to a large extent that we could see this shaky ground, right? We could see some turbulence, some disruption, but still, I think a big part of Pisces is about trusting. It's about having faith. It's about drawing from your spiritual gifts and insights. Prayer comes to mind here. Yoga comes to mind here. Also sitting with the more challenging emotions that do come up. I mean, we have already discussed that there was that solar eclipse that happened right close to your North Node there in Aries, and you are coming up to your second Saturn return and everything. So we are seeing the challenging times. And so this could be where your spiritual values, your spiritual practices can really help ground you and support you, okay?
Has one taken my Know Thyself Now quiz? What are you waiting for? Take it right now. RestoringOurWorldToParadise.com, and you'll find out if you're a novice, an amateur, amateur plus, or an expert. Take it today.